For today's video, we're going to go over 6 linear equation problems. We're going to go over the 5 steps that we did in the previous video, and we'll use those 5 steps to help solve the problems we have. The first couple of problems where I'm going to be working out are going to be kind of simple, and then we'll get to more challenging problems as we go. So we'll start with problem number 1, which is 5x plus 42 is now equal to 42. All right, so in this case, I have nothing to simplify. I have one variable term, and it's on the left-hand side, and I have two constant terms. One is on the left-hand side, the other one's on the right-hand side, both of them being 42. So I want to make both those constant terms go onto the right-hand side now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 42 to both sides. And I'm going to be left with 5x is now equal to 0. 42 minus 42 is 0. So now I just need to divide by the coefficient of 5. And I am left with x is equal to 0. Now that would be our answer, but keep in mind we have to check our solution. So what that means is we need to plug in x equals 0 into our original problem. So I'm going to rewrite the problem we had, which was 5x plus 42 is equal to 42. I'm going to plug in x is equal to 0, so I'm going to get 5 times 0 plus 42 is now equal to 42. And 5 times 0 is just 0, so I get 42 is equal to 42. And therefore that is my answer. X is equal to 0. Okay. We're going to move on to problem number 2 now. Be a little bit more involved. We're going to have 4x plus 8 plus 5x is equal to 6x plus 13. Okay, so in this problem, looking at step number 1, we can simplify the left-hand side. The right-hand side is already simplified for us, but on the left-hand side we have 4x and 5x. We can add those together and we will get 9x plus 8 is equal to 6x plus 13. At this moment, we can move our variable to either the left or the right-hand side. Notice that if I move my variable to the right-hand side, I'm going to be subtracting 9x, and I'll eventually end up with a negative. I don't really want to deal with a negative term, so I want to keep things as nice as possible. So I'm actually going to subtract 6x from the right-hand side and move it over to the left-hand side. And so I will get 3x plus 8 is now equal to 13. Okay. Now I'm going to deal with my constant term. I'm going to subtract 8 from the left-hand side and move it over to the right-hand side. I will have 3x is now equal to 5. 13 minus 8 is 5. Now all that's left that I need to do is divide by the coefficient, which in this case is 3. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to get x. And on the right-hand side, I will get 5 thirds. You can also think of it as, what's that? Or 1 and 2 thirds. Either one works. I'm just going to leave it as 5 thirds. Okay, once again, that's my answer, but I need to plug it into my original equation to see if it works. And so I'm just going to rewrite the original equation we had, which was 4x plus 8 plus 5x is equal to 6x plus 13. Okay, I'm going to plug in 5 thirds for every x that I see. And so on the left-hand side, I'm going to get 4 times 5 thirds plus 8 plus 5 times 5 thirds is going to be equal to 6 times 5 thirds plus 13. Multiplying this out, there's nothing I can really simplify. I can simplify on the right-hand side. I will get there in a moment. Actually, I should probably just do that now. If you notice here, I can divide out a 3 and I can get 2 here. 6 is 2 times 3, so I can actually just simplify out a 3. And so on the left-hand side, I'm going to get 20 over 3 plus 8 plus 25 over 3 is equal to 10 plus 13. On the left-hand side, I'm going to combine the fractions, and so I'm going to get 45 over 3 plus 8 is now equal to 10 plus 13. And so 45 over 3 is actually 15, because 3 times 15 gets you to 45. So this is really 15 plus 8 is equal to 10 plus 13. 15 plus 8 is 23, and 10 plus 13 is 23. So my answer is correct. My answer being 5 thirds is correct. All right. We'll move on to the next problem now. Next problem is going to be a little tricky. We're going to have 5x plus 10 equal to 10 plus 5x. Okay. I can't simplify anything, so all I can do is move my variable terms over to the left side and to the right side, or to the right side, doesn't matter. I'm going to put all my variable terms on the left side. I'm going to put all my constant terms on the right hand side. So I'm going to start by subtracting 5x. And so what happens here is we note that our variable term goes away entirely, and we get 10 is equal to 10. What this means is that our solution for x, if this ever happens, when you get your left-hand side is exactly equal to your right-hand side, what that means is your variable x is actually equal to any real number. And so that means it means that it's equal to any solution. More or less. There's imaginary numbers that it can't be, but for the purposes of Algebra 2 and Algebra 1, it can basically be any number that you could plug in there. So for example, if I let x be equal to 2, let's just say that for an example, then I would get 5 times 2 plus 10 is equal to 10 plus 5 times 2. On the left-hand side, doing this quickly, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 10 is 20. And on the right-hand side, 5 times 2 is 10, 10 plus 10 is 20. And so that means x equals 2 works. If I change x equals 2 to be x equals 4, then on the left-hand side, I will get 5 times 4 plus 10. And on the right-hand side, I will get 10 plus 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 10 is 30. And 5 times 4 is 20 plus 10 is 30 on the other side. So that also works. And that's what I mean by any real solution. You can plug in any number for x, and you will get an answer. And so the answer for number 3 is, technically you can say all real numbers is the technical term, or you can use the sign that I wrote, which is this fancy R right here. Basically means any real number. Okay, that takes care of problem number 4. We're gonna problem number 3. We're gonna move on to problem number 4. And so problem number 4, we're gonna have 4 times the group of 2x plus 8 end parentheses equals 5x minus 13. Okay. So going back to our 5 basic steps in the previous video, we need to simplify both sides. The left-hand side we can simplify by distributing. The right-hand side is already simplified for us. So I'm going to distribute this 4 to both terms. 4 times 2 is 8x. 4 times 8 is 32, so I'm just going to get plus 32 is now equal to 5x minus 13. Okay. I'm now going to take care of my variable terms. I'm going to subtract 5x, because I like dealing with positive numbers as much as possible. They seem to be a lot nicer than their negative counterparts. So 8x minus 5x is 3x plus 32 is now equal to negative 13. And so in this case, I'm going to subtract 32. And so on the left-hand side, I'm going to have 3x is equal to negative 45. And so when I divide by 3 to both sides, I get x is equal to, negative 15. Keep in mind that you have the negative there. So that's my answer. Now I just need to plug it into my original problem and see if it makes sense. Remember that when you're checking your solution, you're always plugging it into the original problem. You're never modifying what you were given. You're never simplifying first and then plugging it in. You're always going back to directly whatever the book or your teacher, your textbook gave you, and you're plugging your answer into that problem. All right. So I'm just going to rewrite what I was given at the very beginning. We have 4 times 2x plus 8 is now equal to 5x minus 13. And I'm just going to plug in x is equal to negative 15 directly and simplify from there. So I'm going to get 4 times 2 times 15 plus 8 end parentheses is equal to 5. Oops, actually I'm plugging in negative 15 minus 13. There we go. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to multiply 2 times negative 15 together, and I'm going to get negative 30 plus 8, all inside parentheses, multiplied by 4. On the right-hand side, I'm going to get negative 75 minus 13. Okay. Simplifying what's inside the parentheses first, on the left-hand side, we get 4 times negative 22. On the right-hand side, negative 75 minus 13 gives me negative 88. And 4 times negative 22 is indeed negative 88, is equal to negative 88. And that is my answer. So x equals negative 15 is correct. All right. We have 2 more problems to go over. Here's the more challenging problems. So for this one, I'm going to have to leave a little bit of space. So let's see. We're going to start with 7 times 5 x plus 4 minus 4 times 2 x plus 5 in parentheses is equal to 8 2 x, oops, need that in. Dropped my pencil, but that's okay. 2x minus 6 end parentheses. Okay, just barely got it to fit there. All right. So looking at the left-hand side and at the right-hand side, we definitely have some simplifying to do. So I'm just going to leave the right-hand side the way it is for right now. So I'm just going to mark it by these little apostrophes, just saying that I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And I'm solely going to deal with the left-hand side for right now, because I have a lot of work to do on this side. I'm going to start by distributing the 7 and the 4. Starting with the 7, 7 times 5 is 35. X plus 7 times 4 is 28. Now here I'm going to distribute negative 4. So I'm going to get negative 4 times 2 is negative 8x. And then negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Oops. There we go. Okay. I still have more simplifying I can do on the left-hand side. I can combine like terms. So 35 minus 8, that gets me, what is that, 27x? (28 minus 20 gets me just a plus 8. And now I'm going to bring down what I had on my left-hand side. So I'm going to get 8, sorry, on my right-hand side, 8 times 2x minus 6. Okay, now I will simplify my right-hand side. Do very similar, same thing that I did on the left-hand side. 8 times 2 is going to be 16. X minus 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. And now I'm just going to carry down what I had on the other side. So I'm just going to have 27x plus 8. Okay. Now here I'm going to move my variable from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. I always like to keep my variable term positive as much as I can. So I'm going to subtract 16x. from the right hand side and put it over to the left hand side. You can also move 27 over to the right hand side. You should get the same answer. If you want to check that on your own, you can, but it shouldn't matter. So 27x minus 16x gets me 11x. I'm just going to write out what I had left. 8 minus 48. I'm now just going to subtract 8 to both sides. And I'm going to be left with 11x is equal to negative 56. Okay. Second to the last thing I need to do is just divide by 11. And I am left with x is now equal to negative 56 over 11. All right. Now I'm just going to have to bring this into my original problem and check to make sure it works. Okay. Since I'm dealing with a fraction, it'll be a lot more interesting, but here we go. I'm just going to rewrite what I started with, which was 7 times, actually I want to have a little bit more space. 7 times 5x plus 4 in parentheses minus 4 times 2x plus 5 in parentheses is now going to be equal to 8 2x minus 6. Okay, I'm going to plug in negative 56 over 11 in for x. And so on the left hand side, I'm going to get 7 times 5 times negative 56 over 11 plus 4 minus 4 times 2 times negative 56 over 11 plus 5 is now going to be equal to 8 times 2 negative 56 over 11 minus 6. Just barely fit. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these terms inside the parentheses. Okay, and then I'll deal with the 7, the negative 4, and the 8 on the outside. So I'm going to have 7. 5 times negative 56 gets me, what was that, negative 280? Over 11 plus 4 minus 4 times, this is going to be negative 112. Is equal to 8 times negative 112 over 11 minus 6. Okay. Now I'm going to, I have some options here. So one is you can either distribute across and multiply first, or you can deal with what's inside the parentheses. Now, you have two options. Technically, both of them are correct, but if you remember PEMDAS, you have to do what's inside the parentheses first. Okay? And I'm going to give you a hint. Working this out in my head, if you add first the numbers inside the parentheses, it is actually simpler than multiplying by 7 and multiplying by 4 and multiplying by 8, because then you get really big numbers that you have to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 4 by 11 over 11. And I'm going to multiply 5 here by 11 over 11. And I'm going to multiply the 6 here by 11 over 11. Since 11 over 11 is just 1, I'm technically not changing anything. So now, inside here, I'm going to get 7 times negative 280 over 11 plus 4 times 11 is 44 over 11 minus 4 times negative 112 over 11 plus 55 over 11 is equal to 8 negative 112 over 11 minus 66 over 11. And that did not come out nicely. Close enough. Minus 66 over 11. There we go. Alright, now I can simplify out my fractions. Alrighties. Negative 280 plus 44. That's gonna be 236? Correct? Negative 236? Yeah. So inside here is going to be negative 236 over 11. And that's all going to be multiplied by 7. Here, negative 112 plus 55 will be, what's that? That's negative 57 over 11, I believe. Yeah. And then negative 112 minus 66, that's going to be, what is that? That's 182. 60 plus 110 is 170. No, negative 178. There we go. All right. Now all I have left to do is multiply by the 7 and the negative 4 and the 8. And we'll get an answer here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of paper math here. So I'm going to have 236 times 7. I'm going to have 57 times 4. I'm just going to have to keep in mind the signs at the end of this. I don't want to use a calculator here, I just want to do it out by hand. So 236 times 7, that's going to be 42. 3 times 7 is 21, 25, carry the 2. 7 times 2 is 14, that's going to be 160. Yeah, 1,652. 57 times 4, that's going to be 8. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 more is 228. There we go. And over here, the last one, 178 times 8 is going to be 64, carry the 6. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 6 more is 62. 1424. Lovely. All right, so keeping in mind of what the signs I have, I'm going to have negative, I'm actually going to go back to white here. I'm going to have negative 1652. I'm going to have positive 228. And I'm going to have this equal to a negative 1424. And all of these are over 11. Okay. So now I just need to add 228 to negative 1652. And 52 minus 28 is 24. So that is indeed negative 1424 over 11 is equal to negative 1424 over 11. And that's my answer. I don't need to go any farther than that. Once you get that the left-hand side is exactly equal to the right-hand side, you can stop. You don't need to simplify down the fractions because they're always the same number. All right, that was a doozy. We have one more major problem to go over, and then we'll be done. All right, last problem. This will have fractions in it, so we'll continue with fraction fun. We're going to have 5/7 x minus 3/2 is going to be equal to x plus 1/7. Okay. So, unlike the previous problems, we're starting with fractions here. And because we're starting with fractions, we're going to need to get rid of those fractions rather quickly. In step number 1, we want to simplify everything, and that includes simplifying fractions. So we're going to use the lowest common multiple to simplify our fractions. We have 7 and 2 and 1. So the lowest common multiple between 7, 2, and 1 is 14. So what that means is I'm going to multiply 14 to the left-hand side and to the right-hand side, and then distribute that across. So I'm going to get 14 is equal to 5/7 x. Whoops. Need to make sure that's in red. Minus 3/2 is going to be equal to x plus 1/7, and this whole thing is going to be multiplied by 14 also. All right, going to distribute across. 14 times 5, I don't need to worry about that because the 7 and 14 can actually cancel out. They factor out a pair of 7s and we're left with 2. So this is really 2 times 5 is 10 x. Here, 14, remember, is also 2 times 7. And so then we can cancel out a pair of 2s, and then we're left with 7 times 3, which is just minus 21. And then over here, I'm going to have 14x. And then we can cancel out another pair of 7s, and we're just going to be left with plus 2. Okay. So now here I can combine like terms. I'm going to move my variable term over to the right this time. So I'm actually going to subtract 10x. And that means I'm going to have negative 21 is equal to 4x plus 2. Now I'm going to move my plus 2 to the left-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 2. And that means I'm going to be left with negative 23 is equal to 4x. Second to last thing I can do is divide by 4. And I'm going to have x is now equal to negative 23 over 4. All right. Last thing that I need to do is I just need to check this solution by plugging in 23 over 4. Negative 23 over 4, that is. And so I'm just going to copy exactly the problem that I was given, which is 5/7 x minus 3/2 is equal to x plus 1/7. And I'm going to plug in negative 23 over 4. So I'm going to get 5/7 times negative 23 over 4 minus 3/2 is equal to negative 23 over 4 plus 1/7. Okay. What I'm going to do here first is I'm going to multiply this term together, and then I'm going to find the lowest common denominator of what's left. Sorry, the lowest common multiple of what's left. Sound like a good plan? Here I'm going to have 28, 2, 4, and 7. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. Yep. Okay. So either way we can do it, and if it turns out to be a little bit longer, it turns out to be a little bit longer. So 5 times negative 23 is going to get me, let's see, that's negative 100, that's negative 115 over 28 minus the 3/2 is equal to negative 23 over 4 plus 1/7. Actually, no, here's the thing that I can do. I can multiply. I need to combine these terms on the left-hand side. So you have negative 115 over 28 minus 3/2. I know that 2 times 14 will get me to be 28, so I'm actually just going to multiply 3/2 by 14 over 14. Same thing on the right-hand side, negative 23 over 4 and 1/7. I need to get a common factor, a common multiple between them. The quickest and the lowest common multiple between those two is also 28. So I'm going to multiply 23 over 4 by 7 and 1/7 by 4 over 4. Okay. I'm going to have negative 115 over 28 minus 3 times 14 is 42 over 28. It's equal to 23 over 7. 23 times 7, I believe, is 90. No, it's not 91. Is it 161? So 20 times 7 is 140. 3 times 7 is 21. So that should be negative 161 over 28. And then I'm just going to add 4 over 28 to that. Okay, combining the numerators together, negative 115 minus 42 gets me 157, negative 157 over 28 on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I also get negative 157 over 28. And so that means my answer was negative 23 over 4. And that concludes this video.